Welcome back everyone to ESA Winter 21. My name is Pi and I will be your host for the next few upcoming runs. We are raising money for Alzheimer Fonden. If you are interested in donating to this cause, links to donate can be found below the stream. We would also like to thank Koei Tecmo Europe and Neo2 The Complete Edition, Twits and ViewSonic for sponsoring this event. Now we have henyK running Darksiders. Take it away.
Yo, hey, I'm henyK, and I'm gonna show you Darksiders all chosen bosses today. With me I have a co-commentator. Maybe you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Aftermath. I also run this game, although kind of on and off for the last few years. I'll be providing useless knowledge and hopefully some good commentary.
Yeah. Alright, so I guess we can just, we're gonna explain what the category means in a bit, but we can just start the run. We're playing on Apocalyptic, doesn't really matter, it's kind of a meme. The only thing that scales is the damage output from the enemies, but yeah. So time will start with the first movement in roughly 5 seconds. Yeah, let's go. So yeah, Darksiders. Here at the beginning we need to fight this car thrower. And we're gonna do that by basically luring him down with a lantern that we throw at him. Normally you're supposed to fight the enemies here first, but we can trick his AI by just throwing the lantern at him. And yeah, that just quickly ends this fight.
Yep. And then in this game there's quite a few different movement tech options. So the one he's going to be doing here is done by Z-targeting an enemy, and then holding attack and dashing, and basically the attack and dash cancel back and forth. Which we call sword dashing, and it lets him move much faster than normal. And then what he's going to be prepping to do here is what we call golem jump. So basically after this fight there's a cutscene that would take away all your powers, including that chaos form that we used at the first fight. But by jumping on top of this golem, using that van as a step ladder, we can go over this cutscene trigger and then make it to the next part of the game. And then what we're going to do here is called car glitch. So basically, we use another van as another stepping stool, and then if we throw a car at a certain distance from a wall and the right angle, when it gets moved from its new to its damaged state, basically just like respawns inside of the wall and gets stuck and lets us use it as a platform. And so what the golem skip did for us is it lets us keep that chaos form. And it also lets us take in 4 times as much health into the main part of the game. So that's another reason that difficulty doesn't matter too much in this run.
And here we need to ascend this building with this wall that we can climb. The problem is just there are some enemies on there, and sometimes those enemies can really troll you. Let's see how they will perform now.
Yeah,
right,
we were
they
just
were
hope
nice,
for no bully. Yep. And then once he gets on top, there's a skip around the outside of this building called Fourth Fight Skip. And basically we've done no fights so far, but normally there's 4 fights in the prologue, and so the naming convention just kind of carried over. And then now we're heading into the mini boss of this.
That's actually, yeah, I guess you can say it's a mini boss, but we're gonna meet him again later. It's Straga, and we need to use the cars that Straga throws at us to defeat him. And we're gonna abuse the fact that we can still use the Chaos Form here to just put these cars into the corner so they don't get destroyed if he throws like the next set. We wanna really make sure that yeah, he doesn't destroy these. We need like 2 times 3 cars here, or 3 times 2. And do I have 3 only?
Yeah,
oh god, yeah, okay, that's a bit unlucky. That's fine. Oh, never mind.
We can just do this
whatever.
normally. This is one of kind of the finicky part of prologue.
Yeah, it's a pretty reset heavy spot normally. I messed that up a little bit, it's fine though. So we can see what his other attacks are. Normally we would skip this phase ideally. A lot of resets happen just because he throws the cars a bit randomly, which he didn't in this case, but yeah, that's fine. So you can just dodge his fist attack here just by yeah, dashing to the side.
Yeah. And so normally between each phase, once you damage him, he'll destroy all the cars that are on the field. but the ones in that small corner are safe. And so what you're able to do is skip each of those like fist attacks between each round, because you just will have the next 2 cars available to throw at him.
Alright, so we need to do this one more time now. And yeah, this fight is normally casually quite easy. The second Striker fight isn't, even in the speedrun, so you need to focus quite hard for that one. But yeah, this one is kind of still like it's all tutorial and prologue.
Yeah, so you can see him making use of the sword dashing there. The limitations of it are that since it's using Z targeting, if the enemy is not in a good position, it won't always be that useful. And so we have some other movement tech that we use that I'll explain later. But if there's no enemy, then it just gives us nice straight lines. So you'll see sword dashing a whole lot coming up.
Right, so now that we finally beat Straga, we can go to the chart council and get our sword.
Yep. And so you'll have noticed that the textures in this game look pretty bad currently. The reason for that is that heny's just playing on very low textures. When we do some out of bounds later in the run, there's the potential of when we load the next segments of the game frame rate might dip for a moment and eat an input. And so henyK plays on very low textures just to reduce that possibility as much as he can.
Exactly, so we got the sword now, and basically the game gives us some tutorials. We can't really, just skip these prompts. But now we just want to get to Seraphim Hotel. If you have some donations, you could read 1 or 2.
Absolutely, yes, thank you. So we have a $5 donation coming through from your favorite Swiss speedrunner. He says, "Hi henyK, sorry, I had to. It's your favorite Swiss speedrunner. Good luck on the run. This time I won't be sleeping on the couch."
Thanks, favorite Swiss speedrunner.
We also have just a quick donation in reference to the previous run from B-Man, $25. He says, "This is for aggro, great job Inception," which was an amazing run to witness, and now we have Darksiders now. I just want to say another quick thank you for 20k today, and let's see if we can keep going with the donations. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's nice. Keep donating. And what you saw me do there was another car glitch, basically just to reach the higher part of the car area quicker. Sometimes like you don't want to put the car in the wall like too low, because then you wouldn't reach the top, but you also don't want to put it too high, because then you wouldn't be able to jump on top of the car.
Yep. And then this is a zombie fight, or furniture fight, we call it. You'll notice him just kind of like spinning around in blood and gore there. What that's called is sword canceling. So by swinging your sword and then canceling the first part of the animation with block, and then starting your swing again, War's able to attack much faster than normal, and that's the fastest way of doing damage in the game. But since our sword's underpowered right now, throwing this furniture at this blue demon is actually a better way than this like 8-foot sword. So you'll see henyK just picking up as much furniture as he can before trying to finish the demon off with sword canceling.
Exactly, so in this next area we can abuse the fact that the enemies are positioned in such a way that we can just circle, dash around them. Like we just need to get up this staircase, and the dashing is just really convenient and fast here, so that's pretty nice.
And then he's going to be going into the Crossroads. So in this area, at the bottom you'll see a quest from the shopkeeper to get 500 souls. Normally what you would do is run around and fight enemies and collect some power-ups. But there's an Easter egg in this map where if you destroy 5 fire hydrants that are scattered around the map, it'll spawn a chest with 500 souls. So we pick up a whole bunch of just kind of garbage lying around and throw them at the fire hydrants. One of the things that kind of makes it difficult is that we have to be jumping constantly, because if one of the zombies hits us, it makes Ward drop his item that he's holding. The other thing is that very first car throw, it's a little bit finicky, where if you throw it slightly high, it'll kind of bug out the like fire hydrant status, and you have to save and reload to get the chest to appear. But that went really well overall. This is this is another part of the run that's kind of reset heavy, just because it is somewhat difficult to throw all of the different objects precisely across the map. And then the reward for that is the first sub-weapon, or gear, as we call it in this game. It's a horn that doesn't do a lot for us right now, but it'll be really useful later in the run. And then what you'll see him do here is called henyK dashing. By using Z-target along with the game's like aim mode, you're able to do Z-targeting without actually targeting any enemies. And then you can kind of chain your dashes together, and so that you're getting a faster than just like normal straight dash, while also not being locked onto an enemy. So you'll see us alternating between the two different dash types quite a bit. And then, yeah, so a lot of this early game is just getting your angles right, and then doing the sword dashing to go where you want to go quickly. Then this is the general fight. So we start off with using the horn to stagger the boss, and then get 13 hits to make him summon these minions. With these minions, we'll be using our Blade Geyser, which is like War's special move that uses the yellow wrath bars in the top left. We have to kill 2 waves of the enemies. We group them up with sword canceling, and then kill the general once he comes after us. During this, you just kind of dodge a few of the hits, and then once you see that QuickTime prompt come up, we know that we've finished it. We don't take the QuickTime prompt because if you use it, it's not only slower, but you get fewer blue souls. And at this point, it's important to get 200 souls so that we can buy one of the movement skills from the Volgrim, the shopkeeper, in order to help with a lot of the rest of the run.
Yeah, and this is the second hardest puzzle in the run. We have some cutscenes ahead of us, so if you have 1 or 2 more donations, go for it.
Make sure to tap your menu to see if you have 200 souls, though, because you got a 3 spawn.
All right, that's pretty great. Well, I'd like to take this moment to tell you guys a little bit more about the cause that we're raising money for. We are raising money for Alzheimer Fonden. This is the Swedish national fundraising organization focusing on Alzheimer's disease and other dementia-related diseases. Any donations coming through are extremely appreciated. And as I mentioned previously, we reached the great milestone of 20k. If you want to keep these donations coming through, it would be really appreciated. We do have some prizes that you can put the money towards. With some minimum donations. For example, we have a ViewSonic VX2758 with a minimum donation of $35. You can enter to be a part of that, and yeah, just keep them coming and keep up the great run.
Alright, so just to be safe, I picked up the currency souls from the chest there, because as Aftermath said, we want 200 to buy Meteor Strike, which we're now able to do. We're gonna see Volgrim again in a couple of spots. We're gonna buy some stuff from him, but not too much. We're not gonna get too many abilities, because pretty much the sword canceling just allows us to kill the enemies without having to worry about dying or anything. And also, we're gonna use a tech later in the run, which is called infinite jumping. The first part of the run is fairly different from the rest, but you'll see how that works out once we get there. And yeah, for now we just have to move as like precisely as possible, don't die in certain out of bounds spots, and yeah, we're gonna get to infinite jumping in a bit.
Yep. And then the other thing he did at Volgrim was save and then reload. The reason for that, we use save warping in a few different spots, just to get us where we need to be. And then here, there's a wrong warp. So by jumping into the ceiling there, it actually triggers us to respawn in the area above, which saves us a little bit of platforming through the rest of that cave. And then that gets us to the choking grounds, which is a pretty aptly named area. So this is a spot that it's got a whole bunch of like pretty precise platforming jumps all right in a row. And so, yeah, we always joke that this is the perfectly named area because any new runner, and it even hits veterans, that you just choke here at some point and then you have to reset your run because any mistake here is like 30 seconds to a minute loss. So yeah, uses the horn to... Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
just go ahead.
Okay, so he uses the horn to trigger the Guardian, and then he has to reload the game so that the next part of the map that he wants to go to actually loads. Normally what you're supposed to do is do 4 arena fights that you see kind of marked on the minimap in the bottom right. But by using the dash technique that we bought from Volgrim, we're able to do some jumps that you're not supposed to normally make and get into this house. And then we get this item, which is actually like a collection item that is normally for the end game. But since we're here, we can just pick it up early, and then that saves us some backtracking at the end of the game. And then this is the start of the first out of bounds section of the game. This one is pretty risky because our movement options are limited currently. And so if he does anything that makes us fall into the void, then there's no other option other than resetting. Or reloading the autosave, I guess. And so you'll see him jumping. A lot of this is kind of a mix of looking at the minimap and looking at kind of the actual level. And so he's just making his way on all the pipes up here. And so he does, you'll see just some like weird jumps every now and again. The reason he's doing those is to avoid certain load triggers. So the one there makes it so that this next part of the level isn't loaded, which then makes this door empty and we can just jump in the back way to get to the next area called Broken Stair.
Yeah, now we got the like difficult, or one of the more difficult parts there out of the way. We're inbounds again. Gonna go to a Valgrim location and activate that one so we can teleport there later during a fetch quest. So now we can relax a little bit. That out of bounds in Choking Grounds is actually like, yeah, as he mentioned already, pretty annoying. And even if you're used to it, you can mess it up from time to time if you don't focus enough.
Yeah, it's for a lot of these things, they're really precise and I wouldn't say finicky, but we have a lot of really consistent setups for them. But it's really easy to mess up still, and it takes quite a bit of practice to get them consistent. And then you can see here that it's just a lot of this area is mixing the different types of dashes together to just go wherever we need to go. And yeah, like you said, the Volgrim locations will be hitting one in every single map because at the end of the game, we'll have to come back and revisit all of these spots. And so we just want to make sure that we're able to fast travel here later. And then this section, there's normally a mini-boss fight on this bridge, but by jumping just slightly to the left there, you're able to skirt the cutscene trigger and skip that fight entirely.
And here in this building, normally you're supposed to go to the lower level, do a little fight there, and get a key, but we can just skip that with a fairly precise and hard jump here. Which looks okay, I messed up jumping up there. The actual hard part is getting on here, on top of this ledge. Normally you see the skate there, you want to have a key for that, but we can just jump over that. And that takes us to the infamous autoscroller, the part that every runner of this game absolutely hates, because it's a 7-minute long, autoscroller. As I said, we cannot really do anything in the meantime except use like this glitch. You can see how the fire is basically continuously coming out of the front there, and that works. It's a glitch. It works by just holding the middle mouse button and then just pressing left click, holding middle mouse button, and just continuously keeping that clicked. That way you deal like insane amounts of damage per frame because it just continuously fires. And this way, all the enemies during this segment are basically absolutely simple to destroy and die within one hit.
Yeah, normally you have to, it's kind of like a Star Fox game. You have to do a mix of like tapping basic shots or holding to get like aimed shots that are slightly more powerful. And there's actually an achievement for killing like 160, which I think is, most people complain about that achievement being too difficult. But with this laser, I was able to get like 360 kills, so it's a huge advantage just to be able to do that during this section.
Fun fact,
then,
like if you're playing on the lowest difficulty, you can, I think, I'm not sure if it's 100% consistent, but most of the time survive the whole auto-scroller without even firing a single shot.
Yeah, you can just go AFK.
Alright, maybe you want to talk about the tutorials and guides that you made a couple of years ago?
Yeah, so with this game, it's always had a pretty small community for it, and one of the problems has always been just lack of documentation on the skips and everything. So I decided to make a tutorial, and so I made some like, I don't know, probably 10-hour long tutorial for this run, and then put in to advertise it, put up like a $2,500 bounty. And so that was useful for getting a lot of new runners to the game, including henyK. And so the goal was just get world record. And he was able to do it after like 5 months? Just
Something
before
like that,
the
yeah.
deadline.
I was actually like kind of close.
Yeah.
But I was really happy that that worked out in the end.
I was looking, I was like, oh, maybe I'll save my money, and then like 2 weeks before you get it. Yeah, so if you just search like Darksiders speedrun tutorial, you'll see that. The game's kind of broken up into like before and after the auto-scroller, so if you like precision platforming, you can even just learn like up to the auto-scroller, and then after that, it's a lot of like really technical out-of-bounds stuff. So it's a pretty fun run, and like I said, there's good documentation for it. So I don't know, if you're looking for a speed game that's just, I don't know, execution heavy, this is a good one.
It's execution heavy. It's with the tutorials and with the new rule set that we recently implemented of timing runs by RTA no loads instead of in-game time.
Yeah.
It's actually way more beginner friendly than it used to be. Because back in the days, like with in-game time, it was you needed to basically complete the game without dying, because the in-game time would always reset, and it was just like, it was kept like that for the longest time, so it was kind of a big hurdle for beginners to not die, especially like during the later auto-scroller part and infinite jumping parts. But now with RTA no loads, you can just die as often as you want, reload saves and everything, which makes it just a bit more nice. And we switched to that. So
yeah, and there's also quite a few tools, so it's pretty easy to learn, I guess.
Yeah, shoutouts at this point, now that you mentioned tools, to What is the Phone, who has made some of the greatest tools we have currently for testing, glitch hunting, and just practicing this game. We weren't, for example, not able to see trigger zones or anything before, so a lot of the early routing of this game, which took place like years and years ago, used to be done just by experimentation and just repeating things over and over again, like jumping in random places. But now we can actually see where the trigger zones are, and that's, like, as you can imagine, really convenient. And we actually found, or Aftermath found, some new skips or some new routes, despite us thinking, oh, this game is probably routed completely, but speedruns never say that, I guess.
Yeah, this game has no lower limit. So yeah, this is one of the sections where the autoscroller kind of starts mattering. So I don't know if I'd mentioned it, but the Blade Geyser and War's other special moves take an ability called Wrath, which are the yellow chunks in the top left underneath his health bar. And in this autoscroller, we want to kill as many of these like red little bugs as possible. And they give the yellow souls that are flying off to him, which will refill his Wrath meter. There's one mandatory fight coming up in this next dungeon, where it really helps out to have 2 of those blade geysers readily available, and that's just dependent on performing well in this auto-scroller.
Yeah, you can see the Wrath in the top left, the yellow thing. We want to have almost, we want to have one and almost the second one, second bar also filled. We're gonna see in a bit if we can get that. Usually, even if you miss a few of the red flies, you should be fine. In the end, you can always do some extra hits during the garden fight and then still use the blade geyser. But it's obviously, ideally, you want to have the Wrath before getting to the next section of the game. And if you have like a couple of donations, you can still read them right now.
Absolutely. I love auto-scrollers, and I think it would actually be a great opportunity to talk about perhaps some of the incentives that we have through this event. Again, we are raising money for Alzheimer-Fonden. If you guys don't know about Alzheimer-Fonden, their aim and purpose is to increase fundraising to the benefit of scientific research in order to find a cure for Alzheimer's disease. They also enable training for caregivers on the subject of dementia. It's a great cause, and if you're thinking to donate to this cause, there are some incentives throughout this event to put your money towards. For example, we have a Devil May Cry 4 run coming up. You can pick which one of the 3 main characters can actually be used for the speedrun. Some Devil May Cry fans out there, I think I already know your peak choice. We also have some incentives, like for Jack 3, what language would you want to see the speedrun done in? So again, it's a great cause. If you want to put some money in towards a game that you love, check out through the incentives. There are a lot of great ones. Absolutely. Now, we don't have any donations to Reen as of right now, but if you guys want to carry on talking about this, I quite enjoyed the auto-scroller talk. I found it very enjoyable, actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
You want to explain this? Oh,
Sure.
okay. So this is the the first dungeon, and this is actually one of the main puzzles that we do, and it took us a long time to figure it out. But you just take the sword from that pedestal over there, and you put it in the statue here, and it unlocks this door. That's the
Super hard puzzle. On my first playthrough,
one.
this took me very long to figure out.
Yeah. So that's the first and last puzzle that we do in this dungeon, and I think in any of the dungeons actually. So from here, the game really starts to kind of go away from the intended path. And
here we see Tiamat, the boss of this dungeon, for the first time. We're gonna have to fight her in a bit. But until then, we're gonna first have to kind of circle this area and first do the garden fight that Aftermath mentioned before.
Yep. And if you're unfamiliar with this game, kind of the main layout of it, or the main like point or the way it operates is kind of like Zelda. So you go into a dungeon, do some puzzles down to an item from the dungeon, and then use that item to do more puzzles, and then defeat the boss with that. And so we're just going to be making our way to the dungeon item, but first we have this mandatory fight that I was talking about earlier. And the enemy spawns are set, so as long as you just kind of kill everything in the same pattern each time, then your fights are pretty consistent. And this is the part where he wants the second blade geyser to be able to take out these enemies really quickly. He was a little bit short, so he's going to try to get a quick kill on this guy, and then see if that fills his wrath. Not quite. This one's a little bit more RNG than the first phase, because there's the 2 bats that fly around, and they can like start flying up really high and get out of reach. But the main thing is just keep sword canceling at the enemies, and then if you see the quick kill prompt, take that, because it's faster than finishing them off with sword canceling.
Alright, that wasn't perfect, but it can still be worse, like if the bats fly up or something, so I'll take that.
Yeah, wasn't too bad. And then in this dungeon only, maybe, you can just open the doors from the wrong side, and I don't know, maybe it saves time, but it's just, that's our swag strat, I guess. And then with those bombs, they normally have like a 10-second fuse timer, but if you attack them with your sword right before grabbing and throwing them, it'll basically just blow up immediately. So if you throw it really quickly, you're able to skip that fuse timer, which saves quite a bit of time. And then here's more of the sword dashing into this door, and we're going up to balcony jump. This is one of the oldest tricks in this game, where you can jump across this gap that normally you would just approach from the other side, but by doing this, it skips the entire first half of the dungeon, and you're able to just walk straight down to the item of this dungeon.
Yeah, so I'm actually really happy that I didn't fall down there. That jump is way harder than it looked, because the distance between the two balconies is pretty high. So if you fall down there, you need to basically circle the whole area again, which always wastes like a minute roughly.
Yep.
Glad that didn't happen.
I've been doing that a lot in my runs. Alright, and so these gear chests, I guess they're called, have the different items, and this one is the boomerang, which enables us to use the infinite jump. So I guess I'll explain that. The way infinite jump works in this game is that when you have more than one gear, you can use one, and then while it's in use, swap to another, and jump on the same frame. And the swap input will actually put War into like a ground state, which just gives him a normal ground jump. And so then you can just continuously chain that back and forth, so that you just have infinite jumps. And so what you'll hear is henyK scroll up on his mouse wheel and then tap 3 times on the keyboard. So what he's doing there is that we have jump and the next gear button bound to 4 and 5. So he's using the horn and then swapping from horn to boomerang, and then swapping 3 times in a row to get back to the boomerang. I think you'll have to go onto the cave section.
There's one trigger I missed.
Yeah, so the out of bounds in this game is generally just kind of going around and hitting different triggers to load like the part of the level that you want. That looks good. And so this is, like you were saying, with the tools that What Is the Phone made, has made it really easy to kind of find these. Because otherwise it's just somewhere out of bounds, there's a trigger you need to hit. But he was able to get it, and by going underneath this room, it triggers the boss door, which then reloads you back in the game, or back in bounds.
Yep,
and then this
takes us to Tiamat, the aforementioned boss of this dungeon. Quite lengthy fight, split into several phases. First, she's just gonna... Actually, the general concept of this fight is that there are certain bombs lying around, and we need to basically throw these bombs onto her and normally use the boomerang to make the bombs explode. With this first one, we can just fire, like throw it through this fire to basically directly attach and blow it up, attach it to her body and blow it up, which then just staggers her, and we can hit her with our sword. The first part is rather easy. Like now she's just diving around this area here and doing like I think 3 sets of dives and or 3 dives, and we just have to wait a little bit. Ideally, we want her to land like right in front of one of those flames, so we can basically throw the bomb through the flame again. You can manipulate that to a certain extent. Let's see if we can get that. Dash out of the way, and okay, that doesn't quite work. But if that doesn't work, we can just use the normal method of just throwing the boomerang at the fire and at the bomb on her body. And here, all we have to do is sword cancel and block her attacks, which is easier said than done because the timing is fairly strict for that. Like she hit me there. That's no big deal though if it happens once. And again. And basically after 3 of these patterns, we will be able to finally defeat her.
Yeah, and this boss is kind of like, we can manipulate her AI based on our position. So as long as you're standing in front and close to her, she's always going to do those claw swipes, which work out really well for our sword canceling because we can also just block those. And a lot of the fights in this game work in terms of stages, I guess. So as long as you're doing enough damage in each stage, it moves on, rather than a lot of boss fights are just a boss has a set amount of HP and you have to deplete it. This is just, as long as you keep advancing all of the stages, then you complete it, which is nice because then it's kind of like another puzzle that you can figure out and find cheese strats for.
Fun fact, we cannot see war here. Only happens in this spot.
Yeah, that's a weird glitch. So when he killed that boss, one of the pop-ups said that he got a Heart of the Chosen. So this category is called All Chosen Bosses, which are basically like the 5 bosses under the big bad. The reason that we have to call it that is because I found a really not fun skip that skips like the last 3 bosses of the game. By basically having a manually controlled auto-scroller across the game world. And so, because that's really boring, everyone runs All Chosen Bosses, which involves killing all the main bosses of the game. Alright, and so here you can see more infinite jump dashing. With the horn and boomerang setup, it's pretty tricky to do quickly and consistently, because you can't animation cancel out of the dash, so he has to wait for all the white smoke to disappear from his dash, and then he can use the horn, hit 4 and 5 to start the infinite jump, and then hit dash to cancel out of that jump immediately and start dashing to the side. And then once the dash completes, he just has to keep repeating that. So that's why you hear the triplet dashing, and that's kind of what's going on behind the scenes. And then a lot of the time what we use to navigate once we're out of bounds like this is we just kind of get an idea of generally where War is based on kind of his position in the map. And then we use the mini-map to really kind of locate where we need to go and where we are. So what he did there was fly underneath that particular section to summon Vulgrim, as this is another spot we have to revisit later. And then by jumping into the water here, we're able to swim. The water in this game, and in this level in particular, is just a giant like cube of water, and as long as you're underneath, even if you're out of bounds, it lets you swim in it. And so what he did there was jump underneath that tunnel and use the height from a sword attack to get up just high enough to hit a loading volume, which then triggered this, or which then loaded this next part of the zone. So, like I said, with the infinite jump, a lot of what we're trying to do is just go from one loading trigger to the next, and we use the minimap in combination with like the skybox to determine whether we've hit them or not. So right here, once he hits the loading zone, you'll see everything kind of go black. And what that lets us know is that the previous region was unloaded and it's loading the next one in line. So now when he's going off to the side, he'll see it load in once he passes the barrier, and then in the air on this door, it's going to load the bottom section of this, and then he jumps over and hits another loading zone next to this cave, which then loads the second dungeon, which you'll see appear on his left. And so with all of these, you have to kind of load them in order, because the next loading trigger won't appear until the previous one has been hit. And so with this, next to that subway tunnel, there's the loading trigger that loads all of the doors to the dungeon. This dungeon is a little bit weird. So if you stand next to a door and open it, it just force loads whatever is on the other side. But we're not going to make use of that here. What we're going to do is actually jump off to another section. And so on this tunnel that is on his minimap coming up, there is a loading trigger, which is going to load the item room. And so now, by jumping into here and then dashing off to the side, he'll be making his way into the item room. And so with all of that, he was looking at the minimap to determine his angle from the initial like subway tunnel where he started going. He got out of the aim mode to kind of look at the doors and make sure he's generally lined up. And then when
Also to prevent that the game doesn't crash, because the game really likes to crash if you're in aim mode and get into a loading zone.
Yeah, that too. And then once the minimap appeared, he was able to kind of see where he was more specifically and adjust his angle again with that aim mode, and then, yeah, get out of aim mode so the game doesn't crash. And he'll be doing something similar here. So this is the fist. We don't really use it outside of this dungeon, but there's a couple of item upgrades that War gets that are necessary just to defeat the bosses, and so we have to make a detour to go grab them. And so this is a pretty precise jump here. So he's going to line up War on a particular part of the texture, and then look at somewhere on his UI against that building to get his angle correct. And then he'll be side dashing all the way across the dungeon to hit a loading trigger that's just floating out in the void. And so what he's doing here is he got his angle off that building, he checked his height against the room and against these doors here. When the minimap shows up in the bottom right, he can see how his angle is, correct it with Q mode, or aim mode, and then judge based on this door that you see just near the boomerang on the right to get his height set up and make sure that he actually hits the loading zone here. And then once he does this, he has to go back the other way to hit the next loading zone that's on the other side of this room. And so with this, especially with needing to get out of that manual aim mode, it's a lot of just really tricky like inputs to handle while not messing up any of the rhythm on this horn jump. Because if you do the inputs early on this dash, you actually just start falling, and it's really difficult to recover once you start falling. And that's one of the things of like the longer you run the game, one of the biggest like skills that you get is just being able to recover from mistakes. All right, this isn't too bad though. So normally what you're supposed to do is go up above the boss room and then drop in from the backside so that the boss doesn't start until you've cleared out the area. But I think you can just jump in now.
You can just now enter the site.
Yeah, I can now enter. So yeah, normally what you can do is clear all these out before the boss actually has any chance to do the laser. But yeah, it's somewhat difficult to like, I don't know, flawlessly navigate out of bounds. So things like this always happen.
Come on. Don't shoot the laser at the thing.
I didn't realize it took so long for it to
Ah, okay, no.
Oh, that was a good idea.
Alright, that was a bit unfortunate. That I actually fell in that gap there. But it's okay. Now we just do the regular strat. We throw this, or push this card into him. And then push it again. And after that we can dash towards him. And destroy his blue crystal as well. And once we did that, we just have to get to the card again, and we're gonna do something like hold this. Normally he would push it back, but we can anticipate this. And if we hold right click during this cutscene, and then just let go of that right after, we can push the card right back into him without it just going all the way back. And that saves quite a bit of time.
And this is done just by kind of exploiting the fact that the fist hitbox on that charge attack to break the crystal is really big. And so when you break it during his stun animation, you can dash out of his attack range that would normally push you and the cart back. And that's the second boss.
Oh no, I cannot do the swag strat because I already destroyed the crystal.
Oh, yeah. Oh no.
Right,
and
that's
so,
Reaver done.
Yeah. And what we get here is the gun, which opens up a lot more movement possibilities. Eventually we get the gun. There we go. The pop-ups are a little bit delayed in this game. So what this is basically, it's a gun that you're supposed to use to damage enemies, but it isn't very good for that. And normally it moves really slowly, but there's a weird momentum preservation effect that it has if you cancel a dash with the gunshot. So what, you'll have to do your menu, by the way.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So what we're able to do is jump and then use the midair dash, and then out of that midair dash, shoot the gun, and it preserves the momentum from the dash, and so we can just repeat doing short hop gun dashes over and over to move really quickly along the ground. The other benefit to the gun is that it'll animation cancel out of the air dash. And so you're able to do your side infinite jump dashing a lot faster than with the horn. And from this point on, there's not really any sort of ceiling on how fast you can go. And so one of the nice things with Darksiders is just that the longer you play, you're always going to have like consistent like growth in terms of like how good you are and how fast you do all of the tech. And so what he's doing here is trying to grab a chest from underneath. The prompt for it extends a little bit below the ceiling, and so that pulls us back inbounds, which you need to be here. The other thing that does is gets us an end game enchantment for our sword, which will boost our damage by quite a lot. Since we've been skipping all of the fights, our damage is really low normally, and this ability makes up for that gap in power, I guess. And so you'll see him just kind of now mixing all different types of dashing together in order to move quickly off to this next Volgarm point.
Yeah, this is like a little sidetracking to a cave there, but it's still faster to do this now than to go there later manually, like we would have to go through the areas again. We're just gonna quickly get this Volgarm location and just get out again quickly. And we're coming up to the second dungeon of the game, which is called the Ashlands. It's not really that noticeable that it's actually a dungeon, but it is one, and maybe you can explain which item you're normally supposed to use there, or how you're supposed to traverse that dungeon.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. So normally after each of the bosses, you go back to Samael out in that Scalding Gallow hub, and you turn the heart in to Samael, who will give you a new power that lets you get to the next zone. In this area, there's sand that War can't walk through, and so you use, he gives you like a time slowing ability. So you throw the boomerang at it, and it'll slow time so you can outrun worms that will be trying to eat you, and you can just advance along this like really set path. But because of gun dashing, we're able to move at gun dash speed through the sand and outrun the worms to skip needing that item from Samael.
Exactly. And yeah, there's actually, you don't want to, for example, bonk into certain rocks here or something. You really want to pay attention that you do your gun dashes right, because otherwise the worm can still eat you. For example, if you look at the minimap, there was a rock that I dodged there. If I hit that rock, yeah, I wouldn't be able to continue the gun dashing, and that would pretty much be a reload then at that point of the last autosave.
Yeah, the other, like I said, with the inputs of gun dashing, you do jump, dash, shoot. And so if you aren't on the ground when you go for the next set of them, you'll just do a ground dash, which then breaks the cycle. It's really easy on elevation changes to like mistime it, and so there's a few spots along that path that you can mess up your gun dash and then just get eaten by the worm. And so what he's doing here is jumping to, yeah, just all the way across the Ashlands, which will take us to the basically the item for this dungeon. And so what he's going to do here is kind of do a blind landing on top of this tunnel, walk along it to hit the right loading zone, and then there's a worm room that kind of connects the main area of the Ashlands with the boss room and the item room. And so what we're able to do is just kind of dodge it around to the side and then make our way off to the arena. Since we're kind of going off of the intended path here, it's going to have some later effects, but you'll see that in a minute or so. And yeah, it's the soundtrack to Darksiders is the triplet rhythm. So what we're doing here is just kind of going all the way across into, oh, you got the invisible wall. Dropping onto this trigger, which is going to start the next arena.
Yeah, gotta focus a little bit for this. It's gonna be like quite hard. So you might have noticed that something is not quite right with this arena. Yeah, that's what Aftermath meant with yeah, what is an effect of the route we took there. Basically, the entities, like the enemies, are loaded. The surrounding, like the arena itself, isn't. We're just gonna abuse that to our advantage. to like kill the enemies quickly, because whenever they fall down below a certain threshold, then they will just despawn. And that's much faster than just fighting them. You cannot unfortunately do that just for all phases. For the second last one, we need to do a quick time event, so we are gonna fight some enemies regularly in a bit. So you see these car throwers here. Now it's time to pray to RNGesus, because the second car thrower sometimes does not fall down. He gets stuck somewhere. We don't know exactly why or how that happens. We haven't figured that out yet, unfortunately. So we look at the top of the screen, and we want to see 2 car throwers fall down. There's one.
Yeah, this is the biggest sticking point of RNG, because you can swing anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes of plus or minus. And I don't know, doesn't look like we got lucky.
See, sometimes like yesterday I had one that came pretty late.
Oh yeah.
There he is.
Yeah, there you go.
So that's nice. That saves still like 1.5 minutes or something. And we want to wait a certain audio cue. And then we can do a save and load that save. You don't want to load the autosave, because then you would need to, like, the whole arena would get loaded and you would need to do the fights manually. Oh yeah, that was nice that we got good RNG. Now we just have to do the last 2 phases. For the first one here, we're just gonna sword cancel this rider. He's gonna try to attack us. We can dodge his attack with a like jump. He's gonna do that once more. And then there's the quick time event. You couldn't trigger this from out of bounds, so you could not continue if this enemy just fell into the void, basically.
Oh, use possession, by the way.
So yeah, what you just saw, or maybe not saw there, I used the possession potion I bought earlier. It's kind of weird, in some cutscenes of the game, you can actually use items or even do other things that we're gonna see in a bit. So we're just gonna using that. And so we defeated this enemy, which is actually fairly hard if you play the game casually or if you don't have the chaos form. So it's really good that we are able to use that to our advantage. And now we get the item of this dungeon, which is Ruin, aka the horse.
Yep, and then we immediately abandon him. So normally there's another small fight you're supposed to do here, but instead we can just jump over the gate that would normally open and continue on our way.
Also, you could save load there, which is faster in-game time, but slower RTA. So recently with the fact that we switched to RTA no loads, certain strategies have adjusted a little bit. It's nothing too crazy, but still, you want to save all the time possible.
Yeah, the strategy changes are still kind of in flux at the moment, but it's always like 1 or 2 seconds back and forth. So this is one of the cutscenes he's talking about, where he actually has control while this is going on. So he's infinite jumping during this, so that he can get up to this cliff, which will let us skip this fight with that worm. And so by running up here and then jumping off into the void, we can basically make our way to the boss room. So again, we'll be looking at the skybox here to see when the background changes to black, which lets us know we hit the loading zone. And then we change our angle so that we exit from the loading zone and get the boss room loading. And then we can jump through one of the windows in the cave here and gun dash off to the boss. So that went really smoothly.
Yep. Coming up is Stygian Ashland's boss. And we're gonna do this fight on the horse. I think there's a way to do this fight without the horse, but it's really tedious, so you definitely don't want to do it in a speedrun.
Yeah.
And before we can actually fight the Stygian, we need to first defeat some enemies here. There's like a certain amount of enemies that you need to kill. You're gonna notice in a few seconds that my sword is gonna level up for the first time. Normally, when you play the game casually, your sword will level up like in choking grounds or even before that. So it's kind of funny that it doesn't here, because we just skip so much into the sword canceling everywhere. And yeah, now we can actually fight the Stygian. First, we have to wait for him a little bit. The fight is completely scripted and consistent in a way if you just move the same way all the time. So he's gonna wait here, he's gonna appear and gonna crash into us. That's on purpose, so he disappears again. And now we can hopefully just be right next to his mask here to actually like get to destroy this mask. And once that happens, he progresses to the next phase. Right, there it is. And yeah, there's a couple of newer strats you can do here. You're gonna see what I mean in a little bit. I'm just gonna go up here for a bit and just chill out here and enjoy the view. But what's gonna happen now is that there are gonna be some little worms spawning, and these little worms chase war. And sometimes someone figured out that they actually, like, you can defeat them normally, but they also die if they crash into war. And we're just standing up here to basically have them crash into our X and Y coordinate. And that way, like, they don't care about the height, but they just go underneath us and they just die. And this is like a really convenient way. You could still try to go towards them and like actually infinite jump over them, but can be a bit more risky and it's fairly newer strat. So for the time safe, I'm just gonna play it safe here. Maybe there are some donations. Feel free to read some.
Absolutely. So what we have right now then is just gonna, for anybody who is watching right now, I want to remind you that there are giveaways currently in place throughout this event. If you want to send money towards this cause, which is Alzheimer Funding, with a minimum donation of $35, you will be eligible to enter a giveaway for a ViewSonic VX2758 monitor. And with a minimum donation of $25, you may be eligible as well for a ViewSonic Elite XT270 monitor. If you guys want to enter these giveaways, go ahead and send those donations through. Yeah, I think that's all that we're gonna read right now. Perfect.
Okay, so maybe you want to explain Aftermath?
Yeah, I think you're fine here. So after the baby worms get summoned, Stygian will attack you 3 times, and then once he attacks you, he does this like flying chase at you. And what you need to do is try to maintain a certain distance from him while shooting him in the mouth. And I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think he's gonna.
Yeah,
again,
so
like...
henyK kind of got unlucky with his positioning, being kind of stuck in this structure here. So normally what you do is you just kind of stay a set distance away and then shoot him. But since the worm actually got to him because he got stuck on geometry, it's going to redo the baby worm phase. So he's just going to go back to the safe spot on the platform and do the cycle again.
Yeah, this is something you obviously don't want, but well, at least we can we have some more time here to talk about things and so on. You also saw me be on the horse and basically ride into the Stygian, and I did that because certain fights in this game don't actually progress as you would think, like just by damaging the enemy. I think we've briefly touched that subject already, but the game just wants you here, for example, to get thrown into the air 3 times, and it's gonna do that again now. We're just gonna ride towards Stygian again, and you could not speed this up. You just need to get hit 3 times. 1, number 2.
This is one of the hardest parts of the run, to count the 3 here.
It actually is, like, no joke. If you're just talking about other things or just talking to your chat during normal attempts, you won't believe how many times you cannot count properly to 3 here. Anyway, that finally finishes off the Stygian. Yeah, as you saw, only a few shots were missing, unfortunately, but it's fine. And that's the 3rd boss done. 3rd dungeon, 3rd boss. Only Silitha in Iron Canopy is left. And then we got all the hearts that we need to actually go to the Black Throne.
And so normally, if you turn in this heart to Samael, he would give you an ability that creates, it's like a soul bridge for the horse, which is only used in 1 spot in the game, which is kind of gimmicky, but because we have infinite jump, we don't need any sort of bridge. So we can, again, skip going to Samael and just make our way straight to the next dungeon. You'll see that he buys another possession potion, which again refills the meter to give us that chaos form, which he'll need in a couple of dungeons from now on another boss fight. And then this is another instance of save warping. For whatever reason, if you save on the Serpent Path, which are like the fast travel points in the game, if you save and reload, it just spits you out at the exit. So we're just save warping to Ashlands. And then,
You might be wondering why I'm not using the horse on here, by the way. The thing is, you can only use the horse on certain floors or grounds, basically. And yeah, we cannot use it on the concrete there. But we just always try to use the fastest method of transport that's available to us.
Yeah, you'll see the horse icon in the top right. It's the one that's marked with the C when it's not out, and then it has the carrots when it is out. So if it's grayed out, then it's not available. So this is the spot where the soul bridge would normally be, but you can see gun dashing or infinite jumping is pretty good as well. And then he's just going to be on the horse and make his way off to the next dungeon.
There's a little cool trick coming up here. You see in the top right we have kind of the carrots from Zelda games, like from Epona, to basically spurt with the horse. And what we can do here to refill, I unfortunately failed it, is to crash into a rock and then jump off the horse, double jump, and then remount the horse again. So you could do that to just regain all the carrots again. Unfortunately, it didn't work out there. It's not a big deal though. And unfortunate or kind of annoying with this game is also that queues up certain inputs like mounting the horse or unmounting it. So if you press the mount button twice, then it will just throw you off the horse again right after you mounted it.
Yeah, it's a little strange. So this is the 4th dungeon. And the general setup here is that you're supposed to kind of go back and forth across all these web bridges, which then break behind you, and make your way off to the boss room, or to the item room, and then re-travel all of the previous areas and defeat mini-bosses to unlock the boss room door. What we're going to do is just jump straight to the item, because it's right in front of us, so why not? And then once we have the item, we can escape and make our way straight to the boss room. So this is the grapple, which is another item that doesn't serve any purpose other than completing or making the boss able to be killed, because without it you can't trigger the cutscene that kills this next boss. And so yeah.
So now we have like a little bit of infinite jumping before we get to the boss door. But first we gotta escape this room. You might be wondering how. Well, turns out there is a gap in the ceiling here. And we can just go through there and then infinite jump to the boss room. The door is loaded, and if you open the door, then you also spawn usually the surrounding area. It's just how this game's triggers work. And you see on the minimap the green thing, that's the door. I fell down a little bit.
Yeah, this is another part where it's kind of tricky going between your different directions and keeping an eye on where you are in space and then where that door is. But yeah, so it spawns Silitha. So in a dungeon full of webs and cocooned enemies, how does this boss attack? Oh, it just teleports at you, because that makes sense. And doesn't use any web-based attacks. But this boss is another one where just as long as you clear each phase, which is just limited by when she sits in place, you grapple at her and then deal enough damage so she staggers, it'll make it to the next phase. And then within each phase, she can teleport to the wall a random amount of times. And so what we try to do is hope for just the minimum warps each time. So during this phase, if he gets 1 warp, then that's the minimum. So he's actually doing really well. He's only gotten 3 warps so far. The max is what, 13? So this is, yeah, so you got a 4 warp fight, which is, or 5 warp, but it's basically the best you can get.
Pretty damn good, yeah.
Yeah. And then this is another cutscene where once she's on the ceiling, you still have control of War, so he's going to infinite jump up into the trigger for the grapple, and then grapple her as soon as possible. And so that's the 4 main dungeons. So now, once we take her heart, we'll take them all back to Samael and turn them all back in, all in a row, get all of our stuff, and then make it to the 5th dungeon.
You will definitely directly notice that the game, well, that you're not supposed to do it like this normally. Normally you're supposed to just go after each dungeon, and it shows you certain cutscenes kind of out of order, and also spawns, or there's a chance that Samael will appear twice. We'll see if we can get that to work.
Yeah.
So all that we now have to do is write back. This is pretty, well, not much happening. So if you have anything to plug or read out, would be a good time.
Perfect, thanks so much. So I think as of right now, I would love to plug a little bit more about Alzheimerfonden, which is the cause that we are raising money for. So if you are just joining in, as I said, we are raising money to Alzheimerfonden. They are the Swedish national fundraising organization. They're focusing on Alzheimer's disease and other dementia-related diseases. Their aim and purpose is to increase the fundraising to the benefit of scientific research in order to find a cure for Alzheimer's. As something that you may not know, Alzheimer's has no current cure. But treatments for symptoms are available and research continues. Although current treatments cannot stop Alzheimer's from progressing, they can temporarily slow the worsening of the symptoms and improve quality of life for those with Alzheimer's and their caregivers. It is an amazing cause, and what we're witnessing right now is a great run for that amazing cause. If you guys want to send some donations through to, maybe you want to say something to henyK, or you want to say something to us, we will read the donations out loud. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing the rest of this run, to be honest.
Alright, yeah, keep donating. Really good cause. Alright, so we're going to Scalding Gallow again. And maybe we haven't really explained the subject of these Serpent Paths. Maybe you could explain those, Aftermath?
So, Serpent Paths are this game's fast travel. Between, or within each map, they all have a certain set Serpent Path that you have to travel through. And so when you talk to Volgrim and you select the point you want to go to, it loads that Serpent Path. So I had mentioned that some of them will let you save warp, other ones you just have to infinite jump through to get to the end of it as quickly as possible. It's also used in this next part coming up to get us into the next dungeon. And so just any time that the game has to load whatever next map you're going to quickly, it puts you in a Serpent Path so it can do that in the background. And you'll see him immediately just start jumping off this Serpent Path and go into the air. The reason for that, like I said, is that this is just kind of a gateway to load the next map. And so what we can't see above an invisible barrier above us is that the entire next dungeon is loaded. So in going along with the theme of each dungeon in this game getting shorter and shorter, this one finishes by we just only enter the boss room, and that's the only part of the dungeon we go into. And so you can see a door floating in the distance, the Serpent Bridge just there, and then once it gets enough height, you'll see the main body of the dungeon load in. But what we want to do is jump towards the bottom. There's a staircase that loads the boss room elevator underneath the floor. And so we'll be jumping to that, again looking for the skybox to turn black to let us know that we've hit the loading zone correctly. And then we go follow along the outside of the elevator, which will load the boss room itself. And then we jump into jump on top of the boss room and make use of another hole in the ceiling to go in. So he's going to fall next to the elevator here, wait for a certain cue, and then jump back up and get on top of the boss room itself. And then, yeah, there's just, some nice little hole right there so we can go straight in. And so normally, you're supposed to get an item in this dungeon because it's a Zelda game, so you're supposed to do that. But since we don't have one, what we have to do is just kind of emulate what would happen if we did have it. And so what this boss normally does is normally you get a portal gun, which is exactly what it sounds like. And you put a portal on the ground floor of the boss, and then you shoot his club. And so when he raises his club to attack you, you go through the portal and land on his back. But what you're able to do is just kind of infinite jump up there and stand in a particular spot on his back. And it emulates the timing and positioning of it. And so it activates the trigger to actually deal damage to him. And so after each time that we hit the eye on the back of Straga, it'll do a fight phase, which we use this Chaos form. Since these are now endgame enemies, they're pretty tanky, and the Chaos form does a lot more damage than we're able to do with War. So yeah, you just try to use as many combos as you can to take out as many enemies as you can, and then finish off the stragglers with either Blade Geyser, the quick scene, or the quick kill, or sword canceling. And then this is also the reason that we bought the Possession Potion at Vulgrim, because for the next phase there's another group of angels, and we want to make sure we have Chaos Form for that. And so during this, when he's just doing his normal attacks that you're supposed to dodge, we can just kind of wait in the air above him, and we use the minimap to just wait at a particular spot, and then at the right time jump onto his back and run into the corner here, which activates this.
Yeah, the spawns of the enemies that we have to fight here are random, so sometimes they can get quite unfortunate patterns.
Yeah.
We'll see how it's gonna go with the angels here.
Oh yeah,
None is close, that's kind of annoying.
yeah. We've been getting really unlucky recently. So one's so far away that he's not actually like pathing to you, which is unfortunate. And so the way these work is that once you kill 2 enemies, then the next set of 2 will spawn, and there's 6 total. And yeah, sometimes you just get bad luck like this. So he's going to make do with sword canceling and try to get Wrath to have some Blade Geyser.
I unfortunately did the kill animation there, which is slower. You wanna avoid that?
Yeah, for each enemy will have its own like cutscene kill, and some of them are faster, some of them aren't. So you just have to know when to use that cutscene kill and when not to. But it's always tempting. Like you see it, and it's like, oh, I can just stop sword canceling and do this. So again, just waiting out in front of Straga for him to finish his pattern. Then when that's done, dashing onto his back, waiting over here, and then as soon as he raises his club, it activates the eye in the back, which finishes the fight.
Yeah, this fight is actually, if something goes wrong, it can go really wrong. So, except for the spawns and kind of messing up how to manipulate the enemies there, this was pretty okay. As I said, you can lose a lot of time, so I'll take this.
Yep.
And this brings us to Eden.
Yep, so this is the main like story reveal of the game. So what he gives you here is the Mask of Shadows, which when you put it on will start a cutscene that spawns Dark Link essentially. And you do a fight, and then you can make your way up to the Tree of Knowledge and get an idea about what the backstory is for this game. But what we're able to do is jump out of the cutscene, go to the Tree of Knowledge early, and then use the mask as soon as we get to the Tree of Knowledge to put us back into the arena. And then we again jump out of the arena, and the game, since it thinks we've done all the story stuff, will give us another cutscene saying good job, which is coming up soon. So yeah, once he goes across this bridge, it'll give us the next part of the story cutscene, which then will give us the teleportal out of Eden. And so even though we've done nothing like we were supposed to do, the game pats us on the back and says, good job. You can now, you've conquered your inner demons, you can continue. And Dark War is just there forever.
Yep.
And this is the oh.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, this is the start of the big backtrack section of the game. So all of the Vulgrim points that we hit earlier were for this section. So what we do is use the Mask of Shadows, and it puts us in the Shadow Realm, which makes these chests or these anvils interactable. And we have to get now 5 more of these blade shards. So this part of the game, while normally backtrack fetch quests aren't that fun, this part, or it's okay in this game because it's just really execution heavy, fast paced, like get everything as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it's pretty chill actually, like for the speedrun. Just like after all the infinite jumping, can, at least I feel, even if it's execution heavy, you can relax a little bit.
Really, I'm always like tense during this part. But I guess it's a lot of like menuing too.
Yeah, I guess it depends on if you're on a good run. Obviously, there are things that can go wrong here, so you definitely want to focus. But yeah, if you're just doing a normal run, this is pretty chill.
Yeah. So again, the Ashlands is one of the areas that you can save warp. With the RTA no loads timing, I think it's the only one that we use to save warp. One of the other ones that will work for that, the exit to it is so close that it's not worth the menu time. And then the point of this section is that you kind of go off, and then on the minimap it shows where the blade shard is, and you're supposed to solve some puzzle to get up to it and then grab it. But what we can do is just go directly to it, jump up to it, and grab it. And then one of the odd things with the saving system in this is that the autosaves will save kind of your like item progress, but won't always update your location unless it's like a set autosave location. And so once we grab all of these blade shards, what we can do is just immediately reload our autosave and use that to travel back to Volgrim and then quickly fast travel to the next point. And so you'll see each of these Serpent Paths are completely different from one another, but it's not like they're procedurally generated. It's just each map has its own set Serpent Path to go through. So in this area, we have to jump up really high to get over some cutscene triggers, and then we can make our way over to the blade shard. So normally what happens here is you do a fight with another mini-boss or another character.
Wasn't it Uriel?
Yeah.
I think.
But we can dodge the cutscene trigger and then just grab the blade shard. And on each of these, generally you can't pause until after the pop-up comes up, so we just have like a few seconds to kill each time. And then, yeah. So yeah, you can see what I meant about it's all pretty fast-paced. Like, there's not a lot of downtime. You just have like 30 seconds of going really quickly to the shard, and then like 10 seconds to reset and kind of get ready for the next one. So I guess it's pretty chill.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
Oh no. I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry, Bird. I was about to ask you, kill or save the animals, but I guess we have to let the other one live now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Half save, half kill is good.
Alright, 2 more shards left to get. This one is pretty cool, this Serpent Path. Because I'm gonna try to hit the teleport from underneath the platform. It's a little bit of time and looks pretty cool in my opinion. It's like the only one that extends to below the platform, weirdly enough. And then the next shard is up here.
And this is another...
Oh, sorry? Yeah.
I was going to say, this is another change with the RTA no loads timing. We used to reload the autosave here, but it's probably faster to just ride off to Volgrim and then talk to him.
Pretty sure, except if you open the shop menu.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're almost done. Now here, we normally would do a safe warp as well, but here the platform is just so close that we can just infinite jump over there, making it faster for RTA no loads.
Yep. And this is the blade shard that's always a little bit riskier than the others. So, like I was saying, with not all autosaves will update your location. This one, since it's kind of further away, you will actually encounter an autosave location. So what we're going to be doing is actually jumping off and avoiding this building in front of War Now, so that we don't get the autosave, which means that when we reload after grabbing the blade shard, our last location is going to be at Volgrim, and so we'll be able to immediately warp back to him. Otherwise, you get placed back in this building, and it takes a long time to wander back to Fulgrim.
Yeah, with this one, we can immediately load the autosave because it's the last shard, and after that, you don't have to wait like with the other ones, which is kind of nice, but also kind of weird. And now we go to Anvil's Fort, where we're gonna meet the gunsmith, who's gonna craft the Armageddon blade for us, which we will use in the final boss fight. If we didn't do that, like, he could not just progress and go to the end part. So even like with the any percent route, you would need to get the shards at the end. So that's just how the game is laid out, or the scripts are laid out.
And one thing that's nice with needing that Armageddon blade shard is that when you grab it, it's already like max level and you can't enchant it. So the fact that we haven't used our weapon at all and it's really weak doesn't factor into the last boss at all, because you have a max power weapon just by doing this quest. So that's always nice. And then this is another one that you can sometimes get a fast pop-up, or not.
Or a really slow
or
one.
a really slow one, yeah.
Holy. Oh.
And then by reloading, we appear really close to Fulgrim and can just gun dash over to him. And I guess this is another Serpent Path that you can save load, and it'll warp you into the exit.
Yep. So we're gonna do that now, and then we're coming up to the last, actually not the last horse ride, but the last horse ride through a desert, I guess. There's one cool glitch or trick here left. Hopefully we can get that, and I can show that off. It's unfortunately not usable in any other part of the run, so it's really cool that you at least can do it here. So there's this giant cliff there, and if we just dash into the cliff, then unmount and mount again. Oh yeah, oh god, that was close, and somehow it focused the Watcher there. That was kinda risky, but yeah, you saw me just basically pop up on top of the cliff. And yeah. This is the last fight of the game, Destroyer / Abaddon. It's a two-phase fight. First phase is this giant dragon, and this is basically counting simulator. We mentioned already before that counting in this game is hard. So what we want to do now is first, just when he gets up here, we want to attack him twice. Most of the time people will attack the spots like this, which actually doesn't save us any time, so we just don't want to do it. And now for the next part, we just want to infinite jump in midair, because he's gonna do some dives. Now we need to actually count, like in a sequence of 2, 1, 1, 3. So he's gonna do 2 dives now, after which he's gonna run around on the bottom part of the arena. And now we can attack him again. And he falls down immediately because we know how to do this. And now it's 1 more dive, and then 1 more dive, and then 3 dives. So I guess you can imagine how you can get confused with that. So far so good, so.
Yep. And normally in this fight, you're supposed to ride the horse around and like joust with the dragon. And he'll charge up one claw to hit you with, and you dodge the other way and swing your sword at him. But if you just hit him as he starts running, then he just falls down immediately. So that's what we do, because it's much faster.
Yep. Okay, so this is 1 more. And now what we are gonna do is just take our horse and ride around this arena, because he's gonna dive 3 times, and for the last dive, or after the last dive rather, we wanna activate a quick time event. And until then we can just dash along here so he can't hit us. Just gonna have to pay a little bit attention to the carrots or something. And for the last one, ideally we wanna just land with a certain distance towards him. Okay, this could still work, maybe? Yeah. So that's like the perfect distance that you want to have to be able to trigger this immediately. Otherwise, he might run around still, and you would need to do 1 more circle, which would be kind of annoying. And yeah, now another really hard quick time event. Pressing E. Hopefully I didn't spam it too much, because there's one thing that can happen here, and that's the game crashing. Our theory is that it might have something to do with meshing too much here. But it's been a while since the game last crashed for me, so let's see how this goes. We'll know
I'm
in a
so
few
nervous.
seconds.
Alright, it worked.
That's like, ooh, it's been really so long since it actually crashed for me. I shouldn't say that because it's gonna happen during the next world record run or something.
Yeah, no doubt. So in this second part of the fight, it's really just about sword canceling consistently, because the boss will just keep doing attacks, but you can either block or jump over them, and then you just sword cancel back at him until you get this like button mashing phase against the boss. After each of these, he'll go up and throw rocks at you, which doesn't, I don't know. The last boss in this game is really easy, because if you just stand here, they just bounce off and have no chance of hitting you. That's really strange.
Kind of an oversight, but yeah.
And then after each of these phases, he'll do a charge at you, and then you just continue sword canceling at him. If he goes up in the air, you do a double jump and sword slash at him. If he does like a ground hit at you, you can just block it, and then you just continue on. And then, yeah, the button mashing is pretty difficult, I guess. Are you going to do the other method here?
I can. Sure. So the third phase here is a little bit different. You don't want to attack Abaddon like too early, because then he will just teleport away and run a bit around and do some attacks. So we're gonna dodge him again, then wait until he picks up his sword, and then we can attack him. And just always want to do this. Wait. Still, wait. Oh, you don't see anything? Alright. Alright, he should be dead now.
Yep.
After this mashing, and time is... once the cutscene appears in like 5 seconds. That's time. Right. That's like a 125 something. I'll take that, considering there were some things that went wrong, but I think for the most part nothing too major happened, so I'll take that. Darksiders, all chosen bosses. And yeah, maybe we should give some shoutouts to the community, the small but really nice community.
Yeah, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So I'm fairly new to the community, but this game has been around for like, I don't know, 10 years now or something, and people have put so much effort and yeah, so much effort into routing this and running this and figuring everything out about this run. So Aftermath is like the one person that has like one of the most, or the most experience probably with this game. And there's other people like Kuro, who used to be a really good runner, and he's a bit inactive at the moment, but we still hope he will come back one day. Then we have Inkalex, we have Ekion, a lot of newer runners. Big shout out to Zeds. He still has to learn the full route, but I'm sure he will just do fine. Yeah, maybe you have some more shoutouts?
Yeah, I just have like the person that helped me route this game was Afox. We spent a couple of years going through and refining all the stuff. Akion, of course, for finding like half the glitches that we use in all of this. What is the phone for his tools that have helped some of the recent discoveries, and otherwise just like clear up a lot of the questions we've had. And then yeah, people like Zets that just pop in to watch all our streams and stuff are nice support.
For sure, and if you want to learn this run yourself, it's not too easy to get into, but we have a lot of good resources, as already mentioned, and we're always willing to help watch streams. So basically, if you fire up your stream learning this game, you will have Aftermath appear in like 5 seconds. But so yeah, just feel free to join our Discord, look at the tutorials, and it's a really satisfying run once you master the main tech, which is infinite jumping. And until then, with a new timing method we have, you can even finish runs, yeah, just by knowing the route. So that's pretty cool. But I think, do you have anything else to say? I think we're done, right?
I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, huge congratulations to henyK for that incredible run and that commendable commentary from Aftermath. Absolutely incredible. I enjoyed every second of it. We did have a little, we did have a donation come through from Bird right at the end of the run there. He donates $5 and says, what the heck, man? What has my cousin done to you? He's put the $5 towards Neo any % category change, all main missions. Again, huge congratulations to henyK. And thanks for all the donations that are coming through. Don't go anywhere. We have Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes coming up. And huge commendations again. Great run, absolutely. Don't go anywhere. We're gonna have a quick intermission now.